Hello everybody, welcome back to Zlatan's Fight Picks. Today we will go over the predictions for the UFC Las Vegas Dern versus Hill. So let's get to this. Today is Friday, so we've got we're within 24 hours. We're making great time compared to last week. All right, we'll start with the prelims. Takeshi Sato versus Themba Gorimbo. Takeshi Sato, 5'10", 73-inch reach, 16 wins, 6 losses, 32 years old. Themba Gorimbo, 6'1", 77-inch reach, 10 wins, 4 losses, 32 years old. Went back and forth. Actually, switched the pick on this one. Originally when I looked at it, I thought, Takeshi Sato. I went with a slight lean towards Takeshi Sato and had to rewatch some videos, rewatch some tape. And, just looking at the trajectory of Takeshi Sato's career and his style of fighting and the fact that he's got a disadvantage in the reach. And then looking at Themba Gorimbo, we have really one UFC fight and the rest are just fights out of the UFC. I saw the reach advantage. I saw the tenacity of Themba Gorimbo. I don't think he's a sensational fighter. There's fighters coming out of Africa that are really, really good and explosive. He's good, but he's not, cream of the crop good. But he's okay. How can I put it? He's strong, but not explosive. And Takeshi Sato, I don't find him throwing a lot of volume. I think he's going to have a reach disadvantage in the striking matchup. I think when it goes to the ground, I think Themba's got a pretty good ground game. He's got cardio, so he's got super cardio. He's going to be good on the ground. I think he's got a good takedown. Takeshi Sato's got an okay takedown defense. I think Themba, I've seen him with his takedowns. His takedowns seem pretty good. In the last fight he fought in the UFC, his takedowns were good, but he just got out-muscled on the floor. He was just not strong enough for the person he was fighting, which was AJ Fletcher. So I don't think that's going to be the case for Takeshi Sato because AJ Fletcher was a wrestler. He wanted to be on the ground. He actually got taken to the ground and then was on the ground and, choked out Themba Gorimbo. I don't think that's the case here. I think Themba Gorimbo is going to squeak out a close victory. Like I said, I went to Takeshi Sato. I changed my mind. I think I'm picking Themba Gorimbo to squeak out a victory in this one. There's a lot of fights that I did that to where I had to reevaluate stuff and actually change my mind on a couple of things once I went back into it. Nevertheless, moving on. Next fight, Silva versus Leonardo. Silva, 5'4", 65-inch reach, 14 wins, 5 losses, 1 draw, 26 years old. Leonardo, 5'5", 64-inch reach, 9 wins, 5 losses, 33 years old. Besides the obvious difference is a 7-year age gap. Leonardo is not a sensational fighter. I think that Silva is definitely top 10, if not top 5 fighter. She's moving up. She's got a lot of potential. I think the UFC's building her up. She's a ridiculous minus 1,000 favorite. She's not even worth betting. But overall, she's got great skills, good on the ground, good on the feet, good takedown defense. Could take a punch, just well-rounded. I think there's a lot of upside. Leonardo, she's just the bottom end of the division and a stepping stone kind of for people coming into the UFC. I think that they're just setting this fight up to build up Silva. I think she's got a good personality. She's very likable. She's pretty. She's very talented. And I think they're just going to get her a couple of fights so people get to know her before she gets a lot of the bigger name fights. I think that's where the level she's at. So she's the highest confidence pick in my picks over Leonardo. Apart from getting struck by lightning, she's going to win this fight. My pick is Silva. Next fight, Chase Hooper versus Fiore. Just so you know, I forgot to write the first names on some of these. So if I just refer to them as the last name is because there's no first name. I forgot. But I do remember Chase Hooper. Chase Hooper, 6'1", 74-inch reach, 11 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw, 23 years old. Fiore, 5'10", 72-inch reach, 6 wins, 1 loss, 25 years old. About the same age, there's going to be a height difference Slight height difference. Hooper's always going to be the taller guy. He's actually moving up from featherweight to lightweight. So he was, I mean, the most of the height differences for him was way more extreme in the featherweight. This is not so bad, but he's moving into a weight division that I think he should be at just because of the weight cut for him. I think he's also growing into his man body because he seemed like he had a kind of a little boy body. So as he's developing, he's going to have a harder time taking that weight cut. You know, right off the bat, I didn't want to pick Hooper. I tell you what, I remember the last fight, how he got destroyed. I picked him to win. He got just wiped out. He just looked so bad. He just got manhandled. And by, what was his name? Can't remember his name, but anyways, I think it was 140, that 145. So, and I remember Fiore's fight, and I didn't pick him. I picked the other. There was this one Polish guy. It was his first fight in the UFC. At the last minute, he got thrown into this really strong, brawling wrestler. Very short, stout, powerful. He was a huge favorite. He was like a minus 400 favorite. Not Fiore, but the other guy. I went with the other guy. And the fact that the other guy did not take him out after being such a big favorite, and Fiore taking it on such short notice, I had really, in my memory, I just remember being surprised at how good Fiore was. And so I immediately picked him because Hooper looked terrible. Fiore looked unbelievably better than I thought he would. But then I really thought about it and I really looked at the fight. You know, Fiore didn't look great. Fiore just didn't get finished, where he was such a big underdog and the other guy was so hyped and such a big favorite. We expected him to get wiped out, and he didn't. He just kind of held on the ground, got ground and pounded, used his jiu-jitsu to stay alive. You know, and when he was on the feet, he threw a couple of good punches. I mean, he got beat handily, but I think it's because everyone and I was expecting him to get wiped out. So, and looking back at Hooper's fights, I mean, he fights well on the ground. He's a ground guy. He's not a great striker. If he fights a guy who's a really great striker, he's going to get wiped out. Fiore is not that great striker. Looking back, he's not a good striker. He's more of a ground guy. If anything, this is going to play into Hooper's wheelhouse because I think Hooper's better on the ground than Fiore. And Fiore did really well against a really powerful wrestler. I don't think he's going to do so well against Hooper. And I think Hooper will do well on the strikes as well because Fiore's not a good striker either. So it's going to be fairly even on the feet and with a reach advantage to Hooper. So after reevaluating it, a lot of these fights I went back and forth. After reevaluating it, I'm actually putting a slight lean on Hooper on this one. So my pick is Chase Hooper slightly. It's going to be a close fight. Not a high confidence pick, but going to Hooper. Next fight. Ilir Latifi versus Rodrigo Nascimento. Ilir Latifi, 5'10", 73-inch reach, 17 wins, 8 losses, 40 years old. Rodrigo Nascimento, 6'2", 80-inch reach, 9 wins, 1 loss, 30 years old. This is one of those fights. I originally thought Rodrigo Nascimento, Ilir, and the slight lean towards him. I mean, I saw the last fight against Boudreaux, and he looked fantastic in that fight. But Boudreaux that was his last fight in the UFC, I think. He was not a really good fighter. Like, he wasn't a top fighter. He got, you know, beat up handily by Rodrigo after the first round where he was tagging Rodrigo. Rodrigo came back and ended up knocking him out and I think choking him out. I think it was a knockout. You know, he looked really good there. And I've seen him get knocked out as well. I can't remember who knocked him out. And I'm not a big fan of Ilir Latifi because in this case, he's moving in from light heavyweight to heavyweight. I find him really short, powerful, and stocky. But I find he's quick, but he doesn't have a lot of straight punches. Kind of those wide looping punches because he's built like a little brick house. But I went back and I watched all his fights, and I've never been a really big fan of his style of fighting. But in this case, Rodrigo Nascimento, looking back, he hasn't really fought a ground guy or a wrestler in the UFC. So he's never had to deal with somebody trying to take him down. Ilir Latifi is short, but he's very powerful. And I don't think there's not one person that he has not taken down, no matter how big, no matter how good they are on the ground. Ilir Latifi is strong enough to take him to the ground. He's not great at finding submissions. He's not great at pounding somebody out. He's just like a short little heavy brick that lies on top of you and does just enough not to get stood up. Excuse me. Oh, have a drink. You know, it's been smoky in Calgary, by the way, because of the forest fires. So, Latifi, I got the big red flag was he's 40 years old. He's 10 years older than Nascimento. That's why I was leaning Nascimento. But Latifi kind of semi-retired the last fight. But you know what? The last fight, it was about a year and a half ago, a year ago. He didn't look too bad. He still looked pretty good. And I don't think Rodrigo Nascimento is a really sensational heavyweight. So I'm going to lean Ilir Latifi. I think Ilir Latifi is going to have just enough to take him to the ground and hold him there and kind of pound him a little bit. And he's tough. He's not going to get knocked out. I've never seen him even come close. Well, maybe close. He's gotten dinged, but he's really tough. He's never been knocked out. He's fought against the top guys in the light heavyweight, top guys in the heavyweight. Nobody can knock this guy out. Well, hasn't knocked him out so far. I can't see it. If you see the guy, he's got no neck. He's very powerful. I think that he's going to be able to take Rodrigo Nascimento down just enough times to win a decision. And that's what's going to happen. I don't think Latifi is going to be able to reach him. He's got a 7-inch disadvantage in reach. He's got looping punches. It's not straight. It's not crisp. I don't think he's going to knock Rodrigo Nascimento out completely. I don't think Rodrigo's going to knock him out. I think it's going to be a slow, boring, grueling, up against the cage kind of fight. And I think Ilir Latifi will take him down on occasion with a couple double legs because he's so powerful. And he's going to get him on the ground. And he's going to win these rounds. That's what I'm working with. So Ilir Latifi for the win, slight lean. Next fight, Kosuke, was it Orion Kosuke and what's his name? Urbina. What's his first name? I can't remember his name. No, not Gabriel. Something I can't remember. Anyways, it's one of the Urbinas, the only one that's left that's in the UFC. Kosuke, 5'11", 71-inch reach, 8 wins, 1 loss, 28 years old. Urbina, 6'3", 75-inch reach, 6 wins, 3 losses, 22 years old. Urbina has got a huge height advantage, got a long reach advantage. Is he, UFC material? He went as a finalist against Brian Battle in the finale for the tough competition. He was a substitution at the last minute. So he lost that fight. He actually really took it to Brian Battle in the first round and eventually burnt out, and Brian Battle took him out. And Brian Battle is a pretty good, he's a pretty good fighter overall. I like the way he fights. So it's it's not a bad loss to take. Kosuke, I've seen him, I've seen him fight another really tall guy. He's a good striker. He did well in the first round, and then he got taken out and knocked out in the second round. Very tough guy. Took a lot of punishment before the fight was stopped. But he's a lower echelon type of fighter as well. So I think it's a really good matchup. This is why I kind of went back and forth so much. I originally picked Urbina, then I was thinking I'm going to take Kosuke because Kosuke is a wrestler. All he needs to do is take Urbina down just enough times to win the rounds. But Urbina, he likes to wrestle too. And having him, I think he fought, who did he fought? Sean. Oh, he's a number 7, I think, right now. What's his name? Sean Brady in in the LFC. And after I saw that fight, I saw Urbina do really well. Like, he was taken down a few times. He got back up. He had some really big explosive knees. He tagged Sean Brady a few times, and it wasn't a bad fight. Sean Brady ended up winning it unanimously, but I really saw a lot of good takedown defense, get up defense, I know, pretty good on the ground and good on the feet. You know, and I don't see Kosuke to be as good a wrestler as Sean Brady. I mean, this was 4 years ago that this fight happened with Brady, with Urbina. But I just saw a side to him, and I think the last fight with Brian Battle in the first round, you really saw Urbina take it to him. And I think he just got tired at the end. And Brian Battle has got a huge gas tank, very durable. And after going back and forth, and they're like, you know, I like Kosuke. He's tough. He does have some big looping punches that can tag you. But I think in this case, I think Urbina can pull this off. You know, I'm leaning towards Urbina. I think with the reach advantage and height advantage and the toughness and the striking, and he's got some wrestling. He's got some jiu-jitsu. And I think he's the third Urbina brother to make a run at the UFC. I think he's going to be the one to actually have a win in the UFC. So after a long deliberation, Urbina. There's been a lot of that. I'm going to pick Urbina for the win. Next fight, Kowalkiewicz versus Damampoulos. Kowalkiewicz, the Polish princess, versus Damampoulos, the Greek princess. Kowalkiewicz, 5'3", 64-inch reach, 14 wins, 7 losses, 37 years old. Damampoulos, 5'2", 59.5-inch reach, 9 wins, 4 losses, 34 years old. Again, girls like Damampoulos, never a big fan because they're always so short. They got short, stubby arms. They're so short, you know. And I got to admit, though, I'm really surprised at how much damage Damampoulos can inflict on someone, even though she's got to come in to their range. So she's really tough. She take a lot of punishment. She takes it coming in, and then she dishes it out. So I really like the way she fights. I think she's tough, but I just don't think she's very technical. She's pretty good on the ground, but she's not the best on the ground. But she's a real grinder, and you guarantee that she's going to be trying 100% of the time, so she's fun to watch. Kowalkiewicz, she's well-rounded. She's great at everything. She's 37 years old. She's still there. How can I put it? She's like, she's like Jupiter. Everybody thinks the star, when a star forms, it forms like, with the gases building upon itself and it growing and it becomes a sun. Jupiter is supposedly a failed star, which means it's big, it's great, it emits heat, but it's not a full-blown star. That's Kowalkiewicz. She's almost at that level where if she was just a little bit better at everything, she'd be a full-blown star. But she's not. So she's come up against all the top contenders and she's come up short. Sometimes she's won a decision. I think she bought Rose Namajunas. I think she bought years ago. But most of the time she comes up short. She's talented. She's a good striker. She's good on the ground. She's good everywhere. But she always seems to come up a little short to be in the top 5 or top 3. She's an almost star. And, if this was even a few years ago with Kowalkiewicz in her prime, there wouldn't be even a debate over who's going to win this fight. This is a little closer because she's getting a little older, but I still think her tools are way more and way better than Damampoulos, and I think she's going to win this fight. Fairly decent confidence, even though I got most of the girls on my lower end in my parlays and confidence just because of the fact that anything can happen with the women's fights. I have a decent amount of confidence that Kowalkiewicz is going to win this. So my pick is Kowalkiewicz, decent confidence. Next fight, Mahashate versus Borshchev, the Slava Claus. Mahashate, 6 feet tall, 71-inch reach, 9 wins, 2 losses, 23 years old. Borshchev, 5'11", 69-inch reach, 6 wins, 3 losses, 31 years old. There is a huge age gap, but not one where, you're going to have more vitality in the 23-year-old. You're going to have more experience with Borshchev as being more experienced fighter in the 31 years old. Even though he's 6-3 in the UFC, he's got a lot of fighting experience in stand-up kickboxing. I think he's the boxing coach at one of the gyms as well. there's no doubt he's really talented at that. Everybody who's fought him has had a path to victory, and that was to take Borshev down. And he might stop one or two takedowns, but he usually gives up quite a few if you keep going after him. Mahashati on the other side, I don't think he's ever shot a takedown. So he's not, unless he's going to learn it just to beat Borshev. Now, Mahashati is explosive. He likes to fight at range. He's got power. Borshev, he's a fantastic technical boxer. And he will go in there and he'll throw combinations and you'll try to hit him and he'll be deflecting your shots with his shoulders, with his arms, moving his head. It's hard to hit straight on. He's really good. So I think this fight is a perfect match. It's going to be very exciting. Someone's going to get knocked out. I think it's going to be Mahashati on this one. I think Borshev is going to win this. I think they finally set him up with somebody that he's going to be able to stand and bang and show his skills off. But he's got to fix up that hole, that gaping hole, obviously, of him being taken down and being beaten by fighters that, just kind of hold him on the ground or take him down over and over again. He doesn't get to show his skills as a boxer. In this fight, I've got a high degree of confidence for Borshev to win. Main card. Michael Johnson versus Diego Ferreira. Michael Johnson, 5'10", 73 inch reach, 22 wins, 18 losses, 36 years old. Diego Ferreira, 5'9", 74 inch reach, 17 wins, 5 losses, 38 years old. Virtually the same height, virtually the same reach. They're virtually the same age. 2 years older for Ferreira. I mean, granted, when you reach this in the upper 30s, it magnifies. Every year magnifies. So the 2 years difference is bigger than it looks if they were like 30 and 32 from 36. So, I mean, that is a slight concern. I mean, you look at Michael Johnson's record, 22 wins, 18 losses. I mean, to look at that record, you will never know how good Michael Johnson is for some reason. He's the best 22 and 18 fighter that I've ever seen, so he's really good. So nevertheless, he's a great striker. He's got great takedown defense. He was a wrestler, doesn't wrestle anymore, just uses his hands. He's got great speed. He doesn't usually knock people out, but he can, usually in combinations and stuff. Ferreira, he's a little slower, but he's very efficient in his strikes, and he's very, what's the word I'm looking for? He's efficient. He's productive, and he's why is that word eluding me? It's he's capable. He's capable of hitting you and fighting and striking and throwing combinations. Even though he's slower than some of the guys, he's still more dangerous than like some of the guys he's fought. He's been slower, but he's still been more effective. So even though Johnson's faster, I don't think there's going to be a huge advantage in the striking. This fight I looked at the most. It took me a long time. I must have rewatched all their fights. And I came to the conclusion that I'm going to pick both. It's one of my 50. I'm going to use this as my 50-50, where if I run my parlay, I'm going to pick one with one guy in it. I'm going to run the parlay with another guy in it. Just because this fight is going to be so hard to pick. The last fight, Ferreira, he lost against Gamrot with a technical TKO. There was a knee when he was on the ground to his ribs, and I think he broke his ribs or something like that. And then they had to stop the fight. So he took a year off. He's healed. He's great on the ground. He doesn't have great takedowns, but he's great. He's got great jiu-jitsu when he's on the ground. He uses it mostly to get back up if somebody does take him down. Michael Johnson's not going to be taking him down. I don't know if Ferreira is good enough to take Michael Johnson down. I know there's been people who've been really good that have taken him down, and that's, I think the champion, Makachev, I think took him down. Was it Nagachev or the other guy? Anyways, it's only the top echelon guys that are going to take this guy down. It's very rare he gets taken down. He's got great takedown defense. I don't know if Ferreira can take him down. I don't know, in some kind of scrambles or some clinching, that Ferreira maybe can trip him and land on top. Then there's a danger. because Ferreira is actually really good on the ground. But on the feet, it's going to be exciting. I think Johnson's got the speed, but I think Ferreira is more efficient in his strikes, and he's effective. So it's going to be good. It's going to be a great fight to watch. I'm picking both 50-50 on my parlays. Otherwise, if I had to pick and bet on one person, I would stay away from this fight just because it's so hard to pick. Nevertheless, so 50. I'm going to use that as my 50-50 for my parlays, and yeah, there's no pick. It could go either way on this one. Yeah, you guys decide who you like better. Next fight, Fialho versus Buckley. Fialho, 6 feet tall, 74-inch reach, 16 wins, 6 losses, 29 years old. Buckley, 5'10", 76-inch reach, 15 wins, 6 losses, 29 years old. Same age, they're virtually the same. Buckley's got a 2-inch reach advantage. Fialho's got a 2-inch height advantage. They got almost the same kind of record. Buckley's moving down to 170. This is probably where he should be, realistically, for his height to weight. I mean, he's built like a brick shithouse. But the thing is, he should be down at this weight. 170 is a good weight for him. I think he can. He's been hanging with a lot of the guys at middleweight. I think he's going to look really good in this fight. He has been KO'd a couple of times. Fialho does have the ability to KO you. Fialho took a couple of bad KOs, and the last KO was really bad. He's still young. It's not like he hasn't, but it was a pretty bad KO. But having said that, at 29 years old, he should still be okay. In these exchanges, I think that the most danger for Buckley is going to be in the pocket. We're in the pocket where Fialho can use his boxing, and he's very crisp. He's hittable, but he's got great hands and great combinations. Buckley needs to keep this at range. He's a faster, more explosive fighter. If he keeps it at range, he's going to dominate this fight. He's going to win this fight. So I have a lean towards Buckley to win this fight. Next fight, Ducote versus Godinez. Ducote, 5'2", 63-inch reach, 12 wins, 7 losses, 29 years old. Godinez, 5'2", 61-inch reach, 9 wins, 3 losses, 29 years old. Here's the thing. Godinez, sometimes I'm high on her, sometimes I'm not. You just don't know who's going to come out. That's the problem. She's 5'2". She's always coming out on the shorter end. She's actually the same height in this case, but she's got a 2-inch disadvantage in reach. She's always going to be in that position, but she's very powerful and she's very durable and she doesn't stop coming forward. I think the last fight she fought Hill, she couldn't get it together and take Hill down. Hill's got fantastic takedown defense, as we'll go over in the next fight. But in this case, she's fighting Ducote. And everyone's always so high on Ducote. I actually not high on Ducote at all. I think she's okay. I don't think she's some phenomenal striker. And I don't think she's a better striker than Godinez. I think Godinez also has wrestling in her back pocket. I just hope Godinez comes out in top form. I don't know how much notice she got. She has a tendency to take a lot of fights on short notice, and she doesn't do as well. But she wants to fight. She's game, and she helps the UFC out with the last minute things. But they're the same age. They're roughly about the same ability. I think Godinez has got more talent in different places. She's a wrestler. She's a striker. Ducote's a decent striker as long as she can get in a rhythm. I think if Godinez turns it a little bit ugly and starts grinding on her, she's going to have an advantage. I'm leaning towards Godinez on this one to pull this off. I hope she doesn't let me down again. But just can't bet on Ducote. I just don't think she's that talented. She can beat a lot of low-tier girls. I think when she gets to the mid-tier, it's very iffy for her. Next fight, Shabazian versus Hernandez. Shabazian, 6'2", 74-inch reach, 12 wins, 3 losses, 25 years old. Hernandez, 6 feet tall, 75-inch reach, 10 wins, 2 losses, 29 years old. The height difference, 2 inches on Shabazian, 1 reach advantage on Hernandez. I really like Anthony Hernandez. Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. I think he's very durable. He's got a great gas tank. I can't see Shabazian beating him. Shabazian's got one shot at this. He can go full steam ahead and try and knock him out in the first round, because Shabazian doesn't have a great gas tank. Hernandez has a great gas tank. Hernandez is great on the ground. Hernandez will shoot, 10, 12 times a fight. He'll keep shooting. And he's generally 70, 80% takedown success, but he guaranteed he's going to shoot 10 to 15 times or in a fight. So he's continually shooting on you. So eventually he's going to break you. And I think Shabazian is breakable. Hernandez is susceptible to a lot of body shots and strikes of that type. He's shown that he can be hurt. Shabazian is shown that he's breakable. I don't have a lot of faith in Shabazian. I like Fluffy Hernandez. He could still take a shot. I mean, body shots he's susceptible to. He can take a pretty good headshot. So as long as he survives the first round, once we get past the first round, it's Hernandez's fight. Shabazian's got one shot at this. He's got to knock him out in the first round. That's what I'm thinking. I don't think he doesn't have a path to victory where he's going to be able to keep Hernandez at bay and pick him apart, because Hernandez is going to keep shooting takedowns until he gets them. So high degree of confidence for Hernandez for me. That's my pick. Finally, main event of the evening. Are we making good time? Look, making good time. Mackenzie Dern versus Angela Hill. Mackenzie Dern, 5'4", 63-inch reach, 12 wins, 3 losses, 30 years old. Angela Hill, 5'3", 64.5-inch reach, 12 wins, 15 wins, 12 losses, 38 years old. Well, they're about the same height. 1-inch height difference for Dern. There's a 1-inch reach advantage for Hill, and she's going to be able to use it because Angela Hill is a fantastic striker. She is a great striker, and she's 38 years old. She's 80 years older. That would be normally a concern. It still might be a concern. We're not sure. Eventually, she's going to start looking older. She hasn't looked old lately. She looks like she's getting better, if anything. She's definitely a great striker. She's improved her ground game massively. She is no longer somebody you can just take down. And when she's down there, not only is she defending, she's actually going for submissions. And I saw her in the last few fights. She looked great on the ground, and that was her Achilles heel. But she's taken it upon herself to get better at that. And you got Mackenzie Dern on the other hand, who's phenomenal on the ground. But the problem with Mackenzie Dern is she's got terrible wrestling, which means she has a hard time getting it to the ground. I think her takedown ratio was 11%. So she'll pull guard, or she'll try to jump on you, kind of thing. She's a kind of jiu-jitsu nerd in that sense, but she just has a hard time taking people down. But one thing that is improving is her striking is improving, and she can definitely take a shot. So it takes a lot of punishment following people around trying to take it to the ground, and she's been able to be fine with it. And at 30 years old, I'm not really worried about that. So this is the one I went back and forth on. When I looked at this, I immediately leaned Angela Hill. And I thought, you know what? Angela Hill, good takedown defense, good get-up defense, has improved her jiu-jitsu enough. I don't think she's getting submitted. As long as she can initiate the striking and keep away and get enough points in between Dern taking her down. And then I kept looking at some more tape. And then I thought, I have this feeling that Mackenzie Dern in this 5-round fight will be able to close enough distance and crowd Angela Hill enough and trip her and take her down just enough to win some rounds. And I don't think she's going to submit Angela Hill, but I think she's going to be tough enough to absorb the punches, get close enough, and in these messy exchanges, take her down or trip her. And I'm not saying that Angela Hill can't get back up. She can. But it'll take her a little while to get back up. You'll have Mackenzie Dern continually trying to submit her. She'll have to continually defend. How's that going to look to the judges? And I could just see her taking 3 of those rounds and beating Angela Hill. And looking back at all the split decisions Mackenzie Dern and Angela Hill have, and believe it or not, both girls have had a lot of split decisions. Most of the split decisions that Mackenzie Dern has had, she should have lost those fights. Straight up. I looked at those fights and I'm there like, there's at least 2 fights I can remember top of my head. I didn't think she won, but they gave it to her. Angela Hill, same thing, only the opposite. 2 fights that I thought she should have won, she didn't win. So I'm there like, okay, so it's optics, number 1, and it's the judges. Or maybe it's just the UFC. I mean, not that there's a conspiracy theory, or a conspiracy at all. I mean, Mackenzie Dern, I mean, the UFC wants her to win. Angela Hill, she's 38 years old. I mean, does it really matter? I mean, she's not going to make another run for the title. She's a great gatekeeper. She's good for the sport. But, you got Mackenzie Dern, who with this win could, be close to a title shot. So the refs or the judges, when looking at all the other split decisions from earlier on, obviously like Mackenzie Dern for some reason in those exchanges, especially against strikers. Like they've always seemed to want to give her those split decisions, right? Unless it's not super obvious, they're leaning towards her. And Angela Hill's been ripped off on the other side. So I'm thinking it's going to be a grueling 5-round fight. It's going to be very close. I think, again, Mackenzie Dern's going to win, 48-47 type of fight. And it's going to be a really entertaining fight. And it's going to be grueling and it's going to be grinding. And I think it's going to be a split decision. I think Mackenzie Dern's going to win this. And that's what I think. So I'll show you the board real quick. Let's see what's going on. Hopefully it's legible. What's going on? Let's see. All right, there we go. So, again, not financial advice. Only bet what you can afford to lose because nothing is ever for sure. Excuse me. Most confident, Silva, 60%. She's at minus 1,000. Not even worth betting. And even in a parlay, it doesn't make a difference. It's way too out of whack. Second most confident pick, Hernandez, minus 225. Still, depending on where your threshold is for betting, it's not a huge return. It could still be worth it, especially if you put them in a parlay. Borshev, minus 160. Next level of confidence. Minus 160. Buckley, next level at 57%, minus 225. Again, if you find that it's worth it, some people think that the payout's not enough to really put any money on it, too risky. Maybe good for a parlay piece. My first underdog, fairly high confidence, is Latifi, plus 162. So, it's a dog or pass type of fight anyway. So definitely would take Latifi on that one. I think it's a good bet. Next underdog, Hooper, Chase Hooper. Hopefully he doesn't hoop me. Get hooped by Hooper. So underdog, 55% confidence. I think he's going to be able to pull it off. I had Urbina. He's an underdog at plus 100. I had him here. I actually moved him in my confidence picks to just above the 50+% of Gorimbo. Just because I think I'm more confident in these women than his fight. I still think he's going to eke out a win, but I've moved him over here between the 50 and 51%, just so you guys know. That's why the arrow's there. I kind of changed my mind and went back and forth on a lot of these. 53%. For the women, my highest confidence pick is Kawakiewicz. So, and my next one is 52%. Kawakiewicz is minus 138 favorite. Godinez at 52% is minus 160. So Godinez is my next most confident pick as far as the girls go, which was at the bottom. And of course, the 51% at minus 175 is Dern. So I've moved Urbina here. So he's at he's at 50.5% or something like that. So Urbina's moved right here. He's an underdog. And of course at 50+%, barely on the plus, is basically it's minus 110. I got him as underdog. Really, it's a pick 'em, right? So I got one fight at 50-50. It's Johnson versus Ferreira. So this fight for my parlays, I'm running the parlays, one with Johnson and one with Ferreira. So take this information. You can make your own parlays. Pick the fighters you really think or you agree with that are high confidence for you, and maybe you want to use in your parlays. Take out the ones you don't want to use. This is my opinion of who I think is going to win and the order of confidence. But of course, you know what? Everyone makes mistakes, and the fact is that it's a fight game. Anything can happen. So, nevertheless, take this. You can use it for yourself. Take information and use it for individual bets or a combination of bets or parlays or whatever you want. And this is what I'm thinking is going to happen this Saturday. Don't forget, I have a betting link for Bet Online. It's a 50% deposit match up to $1,000. They have the most MMA props out of anyone. So, win without inside the distance, certain rounds, certain ways to win. And I haven't really got into a lot of that yet. I've just been kind of developing just the picks side of this on the channel. But eventually, as things develop, we could probably move into that. Also, don't forget, buy me a coffee. Link is in the description. Feel free to buy me a coffee. Love coffee. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me again. Good luck to everybody. I think we still got to go over. Today was the weigh-ins, then the weigh-ins and the ceremonial stare downs or face-offs. I didn't have a chance to see them. I find that sometimes they do sway my opinion depending on how they look with the amount, how their weight cut looks, how they look on the scale, if they reached their weight cut that's expected, or a lot of that does play into it. I'll be looking into that later tonight. Unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to do it before my picks, and I won't have a chance to update if I change anything. I don't think I will, but sometimes it does influence me, and some guys look so bad on the scales that I'm like, oh man, I don't want to bet on this guy. Or the face-offs, sometimes the description you get of the fighter, whether it's height, especially in height, is way off, especially these new fighters coming in from other leagues. You'll find that sometimes they're 2-3 inches off on their height, and it's kind of disheartening because you make your picks based on the information you have, and then all of a sudden, the guy who's supposed to be 6'2" is only 5'11", and then you're basing it on reach and height. So it does happen. Nevertheless, thank you very much for joining me. Don't forget, hit your likes and hit the subscribe button. It'll notify you whenever I am making videos. And like I said, hit your likes. It helps with the algorithm, especially if you've gotten any benefit or if you enjoyed the content. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.